downloaded, he was selling it. All of the children in his cases were between 2 and 4 years old. 2 and 4 years old. Now you see he's rather young, 2005. When we go back to Bailey Exodus, 2008, 16 years old. This morning, our agency served a search warrant, and this is why we're here to tell you about this today. The child that was involved this morning is 15 years old. He was downloading it. He admitted to downloading child pornography. Our team is still working on that case over there. They're busy with the devices. We recovered flash drives and computers and all those things. But it's disturbing to us here at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office. We've got these monsters that are out there, and we're going to get them and we're going to put them away. But we've got young kids in our community that are downloading this stuff and selling it and dealing in it, 15, 16 years old. And the message that I want to send right now is to the parents, that if your kids are out there, and this is our program, these are all the people that have been arrested as part of Operation Cyberstorm, and we'll provide this to you so you can provide specific shots of it. But our task force is working to try and prevent this. And our team is seeing the same apps over and over and over again. And that's on the adults' phones. That's on the people that we're arresting, these bad guys, these monsters. But we're seeing the same apps on these kids' phones. And if you're a parent out there and your kid, and these apps, I'm going to preface this by saying, every one of these apps has a very innocent use for it, that there are plenty of adults who have it and use it totally legally. But if you have a 15 or a 16-year-old kid and they have these apps, you should actively be monitoring what they are doing. So Kik, Telegram, Omegle turned into Thunder, Discord, Instagram, Snapchat, Grindr, and Mega. Those are our biggest offenders that we are seeing right now. And for parents, we will put a graphic of that on the press that we put out so that they can see those, so they can investigate those. Today, when we hit that search warrant, that kid's phone has that Mega app on it. He's got that information on it. And so there are kids out there who have this, and they're being contacted by these other sick people that are involved in this, and they're getting involved in the trafficking of this child pornography. So we want to push that out there, remind everybody that we've got this task force that's running 24 hours a day, 365. We get tips in all the time. We're partners with all these different groups, South Florida ICAC Task Force. We're getting tips in all the time, and we are doing this regularly. We've hit search warrants, I think, every week for the last 3 or 4 weeks now on this. We've done 2 this week. This is an ongoing Operation Cyberstorm for us, but it's very disturbing that these young kids are now starting to peddle this stuff too, and we want parents to be aware and be on the lookout for that. I told you I'd give you an update on the Point West case. That's the last portion of this. Elijah Cartwright was arrested. You'll recall if you were out with me that day. He was indicted by a grand jury earlier this week. His bond has been set at $500,000, and he has been incarcerated since that day that we arrested him. So he is being charged as an adult. I believe he was 13 years old, being charged as an adult for the attempted kidnappings in Point West. So I know the folks in Point West will sleep better knowing that he is going to be charged as an adult and that he has no plan to get out anytime soon. So we have that for you. With that, I'll take your questions.
Tell us about the Point West case for those of us who don't know that.
The Point West case happened probably a month and a half ago, and we had several instances of this young man attempting to abduct 3 different women, 3 different instances. It was the 3rd instance where we finally was able to identify him in a video. We took him into custody shortly thereafter, and he's been sitting in custody ever since.
So the update on that is what then?
He was updated. He's 13 years old, indicted by a grand jury earlier this week. He is charged as an adult with a $500,000 bond, and he's still incarcerated.
What's he charged with now?
Attempted kidnapping.
3 counts of that?
Just 1 count at this point. That's what we have. The state's still working through that case with our team. He may get additional charges, but right now it's just 1 count of attempted kidnapping.
So there are 3 victims, and you're only doing 1 count.
The evidence and what we have so far in that case, we only have enough to place 1 at this moment, but that doesn't mean that he won't get additional charges.
Where was he arrested? Where was he found by officers?
He was taken into custody as he was leaving his home with his mom as this incident was happening. We took him into custody, and that afternoon we actually had a press conference out in Point West and let the community know and let all the media know at the same time that he was in our custody.
Can you tell us the ages of the women that he attempted to abduct, and specifically the age of the one where he's criminally charged with?
Oh, the ages on that. Do you guys have that? I don't have that off the top of my head. We'll get that for you. That's no problem. Yep. Nick, any questions?
Yeah, about the
Anything about it? Any of it? Sure. Yep.
cases.
Yep.
So the suspects, do you know where they're from? Did you say where?
We can get you all that information when we provide you with the slideshow. We'll provide you with the arrest affidavits of all these so you can see the information. Some of them are Gifford cases. The search warrant we did this afternoon was out west. They're really from all around the county. I mean, we've had Sebastian cases. We've had tips from all over, anywhere in Indian River County.
And another question. So
Sure.
So is it a new trend where you're seeing that people are now like they're selling videos of child pornography, not just accessing but actually selling them?
It's not new to see the sales of it. We are seeing it transition to cryptocurrency. You know, the one that we do have, the kid was using Cash App, and it was a traditional, transaction. But we are seeing that move to cryptocurrency for these illegal sales of child pornography. Mm-hmm.
Why do you think in the child pornography realm,
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement offices have been cracking down on this for 20 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem to be getting any better. Can you explain it?
Yeah, it's definitely a concern. It's actually getting worse, I think. I think that there's easier access to it. As these new apps grow, they're constantly coming out. Every time the bad guys realize that we're occupying a particular app, a new app is created. And the creators of it always have good intentions. They put it out there for a reason that every one of us is going to say, wow, that's helpful to me. Discord is a great example. There are plenty of people that are using Discord to organize things, to do different things, but it's also being used to traffic in child pornography. And so that's one of the things why we see it continuing to grow, is because there's new internet access, there's new ways for this to travel. In the, like you said, 20 years ago, it was still printed pictures. It was still people meeting up to trade. Now they're able to trade and never meet, trade across the globe. The internet has really opened that up for even further.
The other part of it is this question. Normally, when we cover these, we've seen people that, for lack of a better word, look like dirty old men.
Mm-hmm.
All.
Sure.
You've got some young people involved.
Yeah, let's go back to this.
Start noticing that.
So really, it's been recent that we've had these young kids that have been involved, and that's a disturbing trend for me. And that's why the reason I said, hey, we got to get this out there. As we lead into the schools year, we want the parents to know you need to be checking your kids' phones and looking to see what they're doing on those phones, because there are plenty of kids who have Snapchat. Doesn't mean that they're trafficking child porn. But should you be having a conversation with your kids? Absolutely. It's a great time to have the conversation with the kids about how the laws have changed and how if you send a threat over Snapchat, a written threat is going to get you arrested and expelled from school. These are all good reminders as we lead up to the school year, but specifically disturbing that we've got 2 high school students this week that we did a search warrant on, that I had to call Dr. Moore, our superintendent, to say, hey, you've got 2 students that aren't going to be starting on Monday because of this situation. Really a bad scenario, Corey, any questions?
So they were distributing or selling, or the transactions that you guys documented?
So all these are different types of cases. There are some of them where it's just child pornography possession. Each one of them, it goes through on here, and we'll give you a copy of this for you to have. Yep, and we'll get you all that information. For example, this kid is the one who was selling. He has 13 counts of transmission, 14 counts of possession, and those are usually what we can prove. But as I said in my statement, there are many times where we have way more images. We just follow through with the charges that we know we can make.
So if he was selling, can you describe how he was selling, who he was selling to, like that?
He had an online account. I don't want to get into the details because I want to encourage it in any way, but I can tell you that he was making contact with other people who had similar interests to his. And this particular guy, he's selling images of kids that are between 2 and 4 years old. I mean, absolutely disgusting stuff. Terrible.
You spoke about parents monitoring their kids' devices. What about in schools? Now that technology has become such a huge component of schools,
Yeah.
what can maybe staff do? Is there anything in place in schools to monitor devices?
There is. I'll tell you, the school devices are actually very well locked down. We have a great relationship with the schools. I feel very confident that the system of security that we have in place at the schools would capture anything that they're trying to do. And I will tell you, the school district can give you a statement on it, but throughout the year, they get some kids who decide that they're going to use Google and try and search something on a school computer, and immediately they get an alert. They go down and talk to the kid. They figure out who it is. The computers are assigned to people. It's pretty easy for them to track down. It's stuff like this. And it's usually not a PC. That's the interesting thing that we're seeing. It's usually a phone. Most of the stuff that we're dealing with these days is phone related. Some of the older collectors, some of the older guys, they're still using computers, they're still using thumb drives, things like that. But most of our younger cases, our newer cases, are the kids who are using phones to transmit child pornography. And so that's why I say to parents, check those phones, make sure you're looking at it to see what they're doing, because these kids are going to get labeled a sex offender. These old guys that have already done it, that are arrested, they're all going to go off to prison. They're going to be labeled sex offenders. All that's going to happen. But these are young kids that are involved in this too, and that's a terrible situation.
Your message to kids that are partaking in inappropriate behavior that could escalate already, that maybe they aren't aware as much of their actions right now and how it might veer on that line of becoming a criminal, like you said. What's your message?
Without a doubt, that 15-year-old kid this morning, when we had SWAT make entry into the house, if you could have seen his face, you would know how serious he realized that situation was all of a sudden. And earlier this week, when we hit the house of Bailey Exodus, he knew right away why we were there. There's no doubt in his mind. So I believe that these teenagers know better. I believe that they know that they're crossing a line. We're not here today because these 15 years old are looking at 15-year-old kids online. They're looking at 2-year-olds. They're looking at 4-year-olds. All of us know exactly what's going on there. And this isn't situations where they accidentally clicked on something. This is 11 counts of child pornography. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows why we're there when that happens. That's what we can prove, right? We know through our tips that there's more stuff flowing through. These are what we can prove the moment we do our search warrant. So my message to those kids is, if you're in a situation where you feel like you're addicted to this pornography, addicted to this, child pornography, talk to somebody. Let's go deal with it. I'd much rather have somebody come forward and say, hey, I've got an issue. I'm 14, 15, 16 years old, than end up with the SWAT team in your front yard.
So the two you've arrested this week,
Mm-hmm.
is it Bailey's
One is Bailey's in custody. The other one, we took the devices, and we have to do this a lot of times. We had the search warrant this morning. We're going through devices right now. He's admitted to downloading to us, so we will be processing him, and we'll get you that information as soon as it's available.
But it may be coming
We're
out.
not releasing it yet. No, we're not releasing it yet because we're still processing everything on that case.
So I have two questions. So
Yes, sir.
You've used several times the term monsters. What do you
Mhm.
mean?
When you go back to these guys, this guy here, Demetrius Bostic, he's selling marijuana. He's dealing in little kid child porn. Let's go back to him for a second. Demetrius Bostic. Between the ages of 4 and 13 years old, this guy is online talking to a person in Gifford, sending disturbing messages. It's a fine line for these folks, and we oftentimes have people that we arrest for child pornography, and it's a matter of time before they take that next step and they start contacting these young kids. And that's what we've seen with a lot of these cases. Some of these ones that I detailed earlier, Jonathan Vasquez, he's reaching out to a 14-year-old. He's telling her he wants to get her pregnant. He wants to rape the child, the baby, when it's old enough. That's crazy to make that leap. And so, in my mind, absolutely, these are monsters. These are people that are trying to prey on our most vulnerable population, our kids, and absolutely unacceptable.
So these guys were doing all of this to make money, or because they had an
No.
appetite for child porn?
There's a few of them that are selling it. When I say Operation Cyberstorm, and you see the different pictures of all these different people, each one of these folks has different motivations. Not every one of them is selling. Not every one of them is uploading. Many of them are downloading for their own purpose. Many of them are chatting with underage people. They're all up to no good.
Are
And
they all part of the same ring or something?
they're not connected in any way. The only connection is the fact that the Indian River County Sheriff's Office is committed to getting these folks off the streets. If you're out there downloading child pornography, if you're out there uploading child pornography, if you're out there and you are chatting with underage juveniles with bad intent, our team is lurking in the shadows, and it's a matter of time before Operation Cyberstorm catches you and you're over here in our jail.
And what you've got all these people is through just anonymous tips, or what?
We have a great working partnership, as you can see in the task force slide here. We work with our ICASC, South Florida Task Force, as well as the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children out of Virginia. John Walsh actually started that. They've got an incredible partnership with Microsoft, Google, all the different corporations. And so we get cyber tips from a variety of different places. And when we get those cyber tips in, we take every one of them seriously.
So I think you counted off about 8 names here. Am I
8,
right?
yes, sir.
And how far back does that go? When do those arrests?
The first one was from April to today. There was actually the 9th one is today. So April to today. And we're hitting them every couple weeks. We're going to hit another search warrant. And this week we've done 2.
Did I get that correct? 9 arrests in 4 months?
That sounds about right.
8.
8 arrests in 4 months. Yep.
Still looking at the night.
Yep. 9th one today.
One today is, you're not counting that?
He's not in custody yet.
Okay.
Thank you guys for coming up today. I really appreciate your time. And we'll answer any of your questions. We'll get you more data on this so you can get it pushed out to the public. Thank you. Thanks for being here. You're right here. You're easy. Thank you guys.